Hi, I'm Jack Davis, and welcome to an episode of The Zone. With me today, former Fresno State running back Jamaal Rashad, and former UCLA, Chicago Bear, New York Jet, and just for a little bit, Green Bay Packers running back Kahlil Bell. And guys, you guys are football players. Week 1 of the NFL season, what are our takeaways?
It's been kind of nuts. There's been a lot of teams that kind of haven't really rose the occasion. It's me personally. I know we were just talking about this. It's the whole. There's a lot of softness. All these calls, and I know they're doing all this stuff with the preseason stuff and the defensive holdings and all that stuff. Man, for me personally, I don't really enjoy watching as much.
So what do you mean by softness exactly? Because that's something that obviously I can't relate to. I've never been hit.
I don't know. It's not. I'm not saying that the guys are soft, but the way that some of the rules that are being put in place, it's different than we were playing, man.
10 years ago. I think that it's not to interrupt, but I just think that when I grew up, when receivers went across the middle, that's why they called it going across the middle, because you're not supposed to do it, and if you did it, you were brave and you were one of the best, like Michael Irvin, Jerry Rice, guys like that. Nowadays, it's you go across the middle and you get hit, it's an automatic penalty and a fine. And I think that I think for defensive players especially, they're caught at a disadvantage because it's like on one hand you need to make the play, on another hand if you make the play, you could get flagged for it, get 15 yards, and then on top of that you're getting a $30,000 fine. And so I think the system is flawed. I understand that the NFL is trying to protect its brand and protect its players, but at the same time, we all, from an early age, we knew what the risk was when we signed up to play this game a long time ago. So I think they have to take that in consideration. But hopefully, things will change as we progress in the future.
But do you think it's like the NFL asking referees who are not athletes to make these snap judgment calls? Because things are like, how fast are things moving out there?
Even the snap judgment calls, I get those. And I think the ones that get me the most are the ones in the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
I think what was it?
Do you guys have a special thing because you guys were running backs and you're getting hit every play, and you don't you kind of think the quarterbacks are a little soft? Or
I don't know about protected? You, but I know I did.
Of course.
I know that you see a quarterback barely get hit in the head and it's a flag, or they get hit and taken to the ground and it's a flag, or they get hit under the knees, it's a flag, and it's just. I mean, why don't we just put flags on them? You know what I mean? Right. And just if you pull the flag off, they're tackled. Because it's getting to the point where there's games where penalties are costing teams games.
Yeah.
Now it's one thing to cost a team a drive or cost them field position or something, but when you cost a team a game, that changes the whole dynamic of the defense or of the team you're playing, because then now you're not worried about playing fast, you're worried about, is the ref going to make this call? Should I tackle him here because I don't know if I can hit him here because now I might get in trouble? So I think you're playing a very tricky game when you try to police the game in that fashion.
And it's not the quarterbacks themselves that are soft, it's the rules that are in place. What was the one last year where Drew Brees ducks and just so happened the target point ends up dropping, takes a head-to-head shot, and now it's a 15-yard penalty? You know what I mean? So it's like, it's a little overdone.
But Kahlil, you played in the NFL for 5 years. Did you feel like the game got safer over those 5 years? 'Cause that's like the whole point, right? They're trying to make it safer. They're trying to have the fans at home feel like these guys aren't getting killed out there. People aren't getting becoming.
Well, I think a couple things factor into that. One, the concussion lawsuits building up against the NFL. That's not going to help. I understand some guys really were messed up, and some guys really had to go through some things, and are dealing with long-term damage from playing in the NFL. But as far as I can tell, I've never suffered a concussion. I've never.
You seem kind of slow to me mentally, so
yeah,
I think.
At least I look good though. You know what I mean? At least the smile's still working for me. But I just I never felt like the game got any safer. At the end of the day, like I said, when you put on the pads and you're going to hit somebody and they're coming to hit you, or a 300-pounder trying to take your head off. It doesn't matter what rules are in place. At the end of the day, it's still football. So, like I said, I think things need to change, but I can understand where the league's coming from, especially when they're getting hit with lawsuit after lawsuit, year after year from former players.
Well, Roger Goodell came out actually a few weeks ago, and I'm sure we'll talk a lot about his decisions today, but said the game is safer. He cited lower concussion numbers, and again, that gets into our guys really reporting concussions. Do you think football's become safer because of these rules, or not really?
I think it's definitely become safer. Again, I'm not. Again, the football that we grew up playing, it's a lot different now. I understand the things that they're trying to prevent with concussions. I understand the guys going across the middle and the cheap shots. For me, again, it's the hand that comes across the face mask that turns into the extreme stuff. So I do think it's definitely getting safer. I think they're accomplishing what it is they're trying to do, but there has to be some kind of like, there's gray area to this stuff. It's not like,
you played in junior college. I'm pretty sure in junior college they weren't exactly calling a lot of these penalties.
Junior college is a different animal, man. We had guys on our team. You got guys that are coming out of jail and going straight to practice. I swear to God. So junior college is a different kind of animal.
Yeah, definitely an animal I have no concept of understanding. But do you think the game's gotten safer? I mean, you seem to disagree.
We play a game that you just can't make safe. I mean, at the end of the day, I really just feel like if you're playing football, you know what the risks are. And no matter how you try to protect receivers catching the ball across the middle, runners in open field, defenders in open field, now that running backs can't lead with the crown of the helmet, I just think, they're trying to police a game that's barbaric in nature. I mean, this game is people get hurt, career-ending injuries, concussions, whatever you want to say. It's gonna happen no matter what you try to do, unless we decide to play flag football. Yeah. So, I think it's kind of a catch-22. You want to take care of your players, you want to take care of your former players, but at the same time, I don't think people come to the stadium to watch people get hit. When people get hit, they stand up and cheer.
Real quick, as someone who has no context with this and is just curious, and I'm sure everyone at home, not a lot of former football players are watching or players at your guys' level. What's the worst injury you've seen up close, and how does that change things for you?
I will tell you. There's one specific injury that comes to mind. When I was at Fresno, we had a guy running down the field during a inter-squad scrimmage, completely untouched, and I shit you not, cannot make this up, tore both patella tendons at one time. Okay, and he was
just because he was running, not even contact.
Not even contact. So there was, when we were all going there, again, it's a different Fresno State now than when I was going there, but it rose a lot of questions on things that were going on. The way guys were being taken care of, flexibility, strength program, all that stuff that was kind of going on, man. Like we had a lot of season-ending knee injuries that season, but to have a guy run just down the field, not touch, trip and fall, and tear both patella tendons on the same play, was in a wheelchair for I think about 3 months. Oof. The worst thing I've ever seen.
What about you, Kahlil?
Well, I mean, I tore my ACL in college and I didn't get touched. I was just making a plant and my knee blew out. So, I can't really speak to that happening to me or to anybody I've seen, but I would just say people getting hit, man, and being dazed and woozy. You know what I'm saying? I saw we had a teammate of mine named Brandon Brazil. I think it was my sophomore or junior year. We were playing BYU, and he got friendly fired by one of his own guys trying to clean up the pile, and it knocked out all his teeth in his mouth. And he played the next week. You know what I mean? I mean, that kind of thing happens on a regular. But I just think, like I said, it's an extremely violent game. And the more you try to police it, the more you're just taking away from what draw people to football, especially America. This is our sport.
And for me, it's moments like this where I think, because like all fans, I'm a fan, you guys are fans now, but players, all fans scream at the TV, oh, I could have made that play. No one can make a play. None of us who sit there and complain that someone out there, oh, I could have made that catch or I could have made that run. We couldn't have, because guys are losing their teeth and tearing their patella tendons, and I can't even dunk on a 9-foot hoop. So, but besides from my lack of athletic ability, what stood out to you guys from week one in terms of teams? I think my Broncos struggled a little bit in the second half. The Seahawks looked great against the Packers. Mm-hmm. What else stood out to you guys?
I think just being that I played at that level for a number of years, I think the biggest improvement happens between week 1 and week 2. I think once guys, because that's the first time anyone has played a full 60-minute game. Preseason is preseason. Guys are going out there trying to make the team. Your starters are getting a little bit of work here and there, fine-tuning. But that first game, you kind of know where you stand as a team. You see what you need to improve. Now, it's a 16-week season, so it's a long season. But I think after that first game, a lot of teams kind of get their feet in the ground, set, and they kind of get ready for this marathon that's about to be the NFL season.
Well, you can kind of tell, too, within that first game, you kind of see, like little miscues and misfires and, kind of things that they need to clean up,
penalties,
over time. Yeah,
forth.
Little things that they need that you can tell gets cleaned up between that first and second week. It's the teams that can take a loss, that can still overcome that and push forward. That can continue to do well and overcome.
Well, I tell you what really kind of grinds my gears though is to take a Family Guy line right there. I just can't stand this instant gratification that we try to put on teams each week. A team like Seattle had a great year last year. Great opening night, great opening win against Green Bay, but it's like, oh, we're going to crown the Super Bowl champions all of a sudden. This is a 16-week season. A team like the Lions won their first 6 games last year, and then they went 7-9. Yeah. Lost their last 7 of the last 8 or something.
Houston won 2 and then went and then did
exactly. So yeah. I'm just the thing with me and being a former player is just it's this is a long process. I mean, we're in the first week of September, second week of September, and we're talking about what team's the best in the NFL.
But for me,
after
the reason it's like that is it's profitable, right? Like all these talking head shows on ESPN now are so big. It's ironic we're here on a sports show doing a roundtable, but it creates so much roundtable conversation. But does that ever seep into the players, you think? Because, I mean, you guys played, you know, if a guy has a bad game and the press is barking about it, will a coach maybe make an adjustment, or do you think, or no?
I mean, from experience, if a guy has a bad game, he doesn't have to go home and watch ESPN to know he's had a bad game.
Okay.
I mean, we all know, we've all played this game for a long time. When you go out and you have a bad game where you throw interceptions, you fumble the ball, miss tackles, whatever, so on and so forth.
But is this instant gratification that we live in now because of Twitter and all this stuff? Do players feel it more? Or
See, I think that's not a player's thing. I think that's a fans and a media type thing.
Well, the thing is, everything is instant now. Everything is instant. As soon as something happens, everybody has their 2 cents
right away.
You know what I mean? People that honestly, one, don't matter, and two, have no clue what the hell's going on.
Imagine what it was like, but it's funny because, you know, players, you can say, you read your tweets, right? Like, sometimes you're getting a lot, you can't go through them all, but imagine what it's like for Tony Romo to come back to the locker room. People are tweeting him all game, how terrible he is. Like, does that get in guys, or
I don't think guys like that read their tweets. I mean, you can't. My dad told me a long time ago, and this is when I was in middle school and high school, you know, don't read your press clippings, because one day you'll do great and you'll be the greatest thing since sliced bread. The next day they'll cast you out and act like you're the worst football player of all time. So, you know, you got to stay pretty even keel. And I think a player like Tony Romo, I think he's learned to block out the noise a long time ago. I would hope so, because go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say it also depends on the individual too. You know, somebody like Tony Romo is like you're talking about has been getting scrutinized for quite some time. You know, but I know personally with doing strength and conditioning training with professional basketball players that I work with, there's a couple that I know of that are currently playing in the NBA right now. They're very successful that are impacted by the things that people say. And
on Twitter,
on Instagram, on whatever it is. Not everybody can take that, but some people are it gets to them a little bit.
So I guess this is my next question is, you guys have both played in high leverage situations. Has there ever been a heckler you've seen get to a player? Has a player ever been fazed by someone in the crowd heckling, or what's like the worst thing you've heard if people go over the line?
Oh man, how much time we got on the show? 'Cause I got so much. Just speaking from my past season, I was with the Green Bay Packers, but I had played for the Bears my first 4 years in the NFL. So, you know, I got a lot of those hecklers. I got a lot of people who unfollowed me on Twitter, who followed me in Chicago because, you know, I signed with the enemy. But, you know, I think all that is noise. When the first kick is kicked or the first tip is thrown in basketball or whatever it is, I think most people concentrate on unless you're Lance Stevenson, you know, blowing kisses and pulling people's shorts down in the NBA semis. But I think most people put that stuff away, because if you focus on that kind of stuff, it's just taken away from your game as a player.
Yeah, for me, obviously, I'm not a public figure in any way or an athlete. But when someone leaves me a mean tweet, I probably know them and it affects me. So it's amazing that it can. I mean, totally different world though. One thing that's getting a lot of attention though, and we have to talk about, is the Ray Rice situation. I see you kind of huffing and puffing already, and you know I'm just gonna lead. I'm gonna lead on this one with my thoughts. The video is terrible. The video is obviously terrible, extremely disturbing, offensive. But as I said in my tweet yesterday when I tweeted about the situation, what did people think? Did people think it was going to look good? We all knew he hit his fiancée, now wife. We saw the video of him dragging her out of the elevator. So everyone's getting all offended and shocked, and rightfully so. But it's like this shock and this response from the NFL, in my opinion, should have come long before, because you knew he hit his wife. What do you think it was going to look good? You think it was going to look like not so bad? I mean, what do you guys think?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. Did people knew that he actually struck her before the video came out?
Yes. Yes,
That's
people. I mean, that was the testimony, and even if you didn't know the exact way he struck her, since February, the video of him dragging her limp body out of the elevator has been there. So you knew.
Leaving her on the floor, though.
Leaving her on the floor.
Your fiance, soon to be wife.
I think
now
hearing and seeing are two very different things. And for me personally, when watching a game yesterday, I don't know the second game that was on last night. I think it was the Dallas game. Arizona and
San Diego.
Yeah. Okay. Watching the game yesterday, and when the second quarter ended, and they went right into halftime. To see that story be the first story and the video right away, I think that hits home for a lot of people. When you see it makes it completely different than hearing about it, because you hear about a lot of stuff, you know?
I think it's just the old Santa Claus routine. You know what I mean? Nobody believes in Santa Claus, or you hear about Santa Claus and you might not know what to think. But if you saw St. Nick coming down your chimney putting, Christmas presents at your tree, I think it's going to make you a believer. So I think when people heard about it, myself included, we didn't know the extent we heard about it. But you hear about these stories all the time. And some of them you got to take with a grain of salt because you don't exactly know what the facts are. You don't know who's lying, who's telling the truth, what the circumstances are. But I mean, the eye and sky don't lie. We used to say that in football all the time. And I actually tweeted that yesterday. When you actually can see it and you see the act being committed, it changes things. And it changed it for me, at least. I don't think I really even paid too much attention to the 2-game suspension. Really didn't bother with it when I heard the new domestic violence policy that came out in the NFL a couple weeks ago. I didn't really know what to think about it because, like I said, until you know for sure what really happened, it's hard to just be like, okay, first time 6 games, second time lifetime.
Every NFL decision seems so arbitrary too, because they suspend Ray Rice for 2 games, and then they make the new domestic policy after they get the criticism. So now it's 6 games in lifetime, but now he's suspended indefinitely. And even though obviously I think Ray Rice is never I think he'll never play football ever again. It's still I feel like the NFL is just making up rules as they go along.
I think there's a lot of money being exchanged, and whether it's TV, NFL teams, contracts, the whole nine, endorsements. So I think you walk a very slippery slope when you're trying to police this whole incident here. I mean, I think at first they didn't have all the information. I think as time went on, I think they finally got the information, which is why they were so strict with the new domestic violence policies. But like I said, if Chris Mortensen knew months ago what had happened, which he had said on ESPN yesterday, I was watching Monday Night Countdown, if he knew months ago what had transpired, pretty detailed account of what had transpired, I think it's safe to say that the league had to have a better idea of what was actually going on. Now you can't really say they did or they didn't. It's all he said, she said. But I think when we all saw the video yesterday, we were all shocked as players. I mean, players took to Twitter as well, not just fans. Players who are current players, former players, they all took to Twitter and voiced their opinion of how outraged they were.
How much does that mean that current players are taking to Twitter? Because I know current players are usually pretty reserved to make a judgment because guys are worried it might come back to them or their friend. For you guys, you being in the locker room, what does that signify that current players are willing to go this hard on the record? What does that mean?
I mean, it was again the video. And it's such a strong issue that I think it's one of the few times that you're going to see athletes come out and speak on a topic like that. Yeah. Usually guys stay away from that.
Isn't there kind of a code that athletes don't want to talk about other athletes really unless they have to, criticize them?
I think to a degree, if like you said yesterday on ESPN, all his teammates supported him. They had a press conference. The general manager, the team, everyone was supportive until that video was shown. And when they saw him throw that left hook and knock his, fiance, now wife, out, I think that just changed everything.
For me, the craziest part of the video, and I don't know what people at home think, but he doesn't seem that rattled after she hits the deck. Now, I'm no expert in domestic abuse. I'm no expert in this stuff, but it seems to me that if this was like if you'd be shocked that you knocked out your fiance, if it was just a moment of anger, if it was something that you didn't see coming, he reacts pretty cavalier.
Yeah, but if you look at different parts of it, and again, like domestic violence is never okay, all right? But when you look at the exchange that they had even before they got on the elevator, if I'm not mistaken, he's standing there, she walks up and then slaps him, right? So that's you don't know what's going on before that clip. You're talking about a very small amount of space.
It's a damning clip.
Of course it is, but I'm saying like, who knows if alcohol is involved? Who knows what was going on before that? So it's like they may very well have had just an explosive relationship the whole entire time. Maybe still do. Nobody really knows.
Well, I can't speculate on their relationship. I don't want to speculate on the relationship because I don't know Ray Rice personally. I don't know his fiance personally. I just can judge what I saw in that 15-second clip in the elevator. And as a man who has 3 sisters, a beautiful mother, is a man who wants a family one day and hopefully blessed with a beautiful daughter, I just know that's completely unacceptable. You don't ever put your hands on a woman. That's just something you just don't do. I mean, it's just something my dad taught me as a kid, something I know most males in this country have been taught from a young age. So to see something that graphic, that violent, it was just a shocker. And I think the NFL is trying to act appropriately now that the video is released and everyone can kind of see it in its totality.
God, your dad, it seems like he's got great wisdom and great lines. Like you give all these great stories. My dad told me this, and they're so succinct. Great. Like, how about he should come on and talk to us?
Anytime. Let's bring him on next.
So, not the smoothest segue, considering it's a very serious topic, but Ray Rice is a running back. You guys are both running backs. For everyone at home who's watching this who has no idea what it's like to play in the league and never will, and that includes me. I didn't even play in high school. What is it like to be a running back? What do you guys can relate to that's so unique and different?
I think the one thing that's big is, if I'm not mistaken, I think running backs have the shortest career in the NFL right now, right? So the injury rate and the pounding that you take is rough, and it's a not only is it a physical grind, but it's a mental grind, because things are going to happen, you're going to get hurt, and when you do, trying to constantly fight and overcome on a regular basis, it can wear on you a lot. So it wasn't until later on that I realized the saying that football was more mental than it was physical, because for you to constantly keep getting up and overcoming obstacle after obstacle, the mental part is huge.
I mean, isn't running back the only position where you're getting tackled every time unless you score a touchdown? I know guys on the line are going at each other, but you're getting hit and you're trying to avoid getting hit. Yeah.
Pretty much. I have a different outtake on running back. I love the position, obviously. I think it's one of the greatest positions in any sport. But, it really bothers me today when I watch the modern day NFL and I watch
more running backs.
Pretty much watch how running back is being phased out of the game almost like a team like New Orleans can have 6 running backs on the roster, and it's basically running back by committee. Now, I grew up in a time where you had a running back, and he was that guy, and he was getting 20 to 25 carries every game. And he was durable and he lasts. And, people like to bring up the argument that, running backs get hurt, which is very true. It's a very dangerous game. But I also think it's a testament to the teams who are pretty much consistently have been the best in the NFL the last couple of years, which is the Seahawks and the Niners. They're arguably the 2 best teams in the NFL. And they run the ball. It's no coincidence that they run the ball. Now, I'm not trying to take anything away from quarterbacks. It's the hardest position in all of sports. So my little brother tells me. I've never played it, so I can't really comment on it. But I just know football was built on running the ball, playing good defense, and having good special teams. I mean, the forward pass didn't even come into existence till, 20, 30 years after the game was made. So for teams to just completely discredit what we do and kind of act like it's something that anyone can do and they can just go find a back to get your little 15 carries here in the game, 10 carries, I think it's absurd. And I think it's doing a discredit to the younger generation of kids who grow up watching this game, because they don't grow up watching running backs run the ball. They grow up watching receivers and slots, and that's all fine and dandy. But I mean, like I said, the team that won the Super Bowl last year was a running team, right? Am I right? Am I wrong? The team that beat the Patriots when they went 18-1 was a running team. Now, Eli might have won MVP that game or this, that, or the other, but at the end of the day, if you don't run the football, you can't control the game. And so I think that's a huge part of the game that's missing in today's NFL and in today's sports from any level, high school, college, and pro.
Well, it's difficult too. Is the NFL is a lot like it's a business, so it's run off of consumer demand. So at the end of the day,
demand is wide receivers and quarterbacks.
Exactly, that's what we're talking about. So the market is dictated by what is demanded. If right now the quarterback, the receiver game is what's demanded, then you see a lot more of that. So you see a lot of these. When I went into college, I remember, I'll never forget that year. There was 3 running backs drafted in the first 5 picks: Cedric Benson, Cadillac Williams, and Ronnie Brown.
They all flopped to a degree, those guys, though.
Arguably.
Ronnie Brown had a great career.
Arguably.
For a few years. He kind of petered off at the end.
But either way, there was a time when running backs were the staple. They were going top 5, top 10. And now you look, and it's not that way anymore.
To your credit, you're saying it's a consumer's league, and I agree with you 100%. But at the end of the day, the name of the game is to win.
Yeah.
I mean, there are certain teams in the NFL that are going to get crowds and get ticket sales and jersey sales no matter where they win, lose, tie, or draw. It doesn't matter. But if you're trying to win, in my opinion, now I'm just a former running back
with no bias. And if you want to
biased.
sign me NFL team, I'm free. I can run the ball 15 or 20 times a game.
Very free if you want to sign me. But what I'm saying is I might be a little biased, but I just think the basics of the game never changes. In basketball, fundamentals is everything. Look at the Spurs. Look at the Spurs in the NBA championship. They dominated the Heat. I mean, dominated. Didn't even look like the Heat belonged in the finals with them. They just wiped them off the floor. And it wasn't because they were more athletic. Tim Duncan is probably the most unathletic person in the NBA. But what do they call him? Big fundamental. Why do they call him that? Because everything he does is fundamentally sound. So when you do the basics of the game and you're fundamentally sound at what you do, that should make you a better team.
Yeah.
Now, all these teams want to drop back and throw the ball 80 yards for a touchdown. That looks beautiful and it's great and it's all fine and dandy. But I played in Chicago. When it's December and January and it's cold and the wind is blowing off that lake, you're not going to be able to drop and throw the ball 80 yards up the field. You got to have something consistent that sustains your team over a course of a year, and that's the running game. And I think that's lost in today's football.
Yeah, I agree. Fundamentals is important. That's why I always whoop you in basketball. My fundamentals are just so much better.
You haven't beat me in anything basketball related since I've known you.
That's a lie. That's
since I've known you.
I'm just clearly superior.
That is the truth.
It's clearly
you
superior.
You can mark it down right here.
I think you actually owe me some money too for my last game. Before we get into some of the stuff you're doing, Jamaal, I want to do a quick lightning round, and this is going to touch on some of those wide receivers in sexy positions.
Ooh.
And I want your guys' opinion. I might not even answer because I don't know how much opinion mine means, but A.J. Green or Calvin Johnson?
Calvin Johnson. That's the easy one for me.
Too easy. Calvin Johnson. A.J. Green's still young.
A.J. Green's, that's what I'm saying. He's young.
Still
He's got
young.
potential to grow.
Yeah, but we're talking about,
we're talking right now, right?
Calvin Johnson is a lock Hall of Famer right now. And he's been in the league 8 years. Right now, he's a lock Hall of Famer.
Have you played on the same field as Calvin Johnson?
I have.
What's it like to witness that?
I mean, I don't want to sound like a groupie or anything, but I mean, the dude is pretty phenomenal, man. He's like 6'6". He looks like a basketball player. He's as fast as any corner or safety on the field. He's got a catch radius bigger than anybody else in the NFL. I mean, he's Megatron, man. What else? What more can you say about him? He's
there's never been a Calvin Johnson.
He's
better than Jerry Rice?
Oh, no. Come on, man. You're talking about Jerry Rice.
Okay, Jerry Rice is the greatest.
Jerry Rice is the greatest of all time. But, I mean, in modern-day football right now, he is pretty much everything you want in a receiver.
So, sexy position, quarterback, and we'll kind of take a little different tone on it. You guys are going out to the bar. You want someone to be your wingman. Tom Brady or Johnny Manziel? Brady before he was married with Giselle and stuff like that. I mean, I believe both you guys are single. I could be incorrect. But
single as can be. Single as can be.
I'll let you guys go ahead.
I'm going with Tom. My man's from the Bay Area. You know what I'm saying? He's got 3 rings. I mean, it's Tom Brady, man. You just look at Tom. You see him right there. You got to go with Tom, man. And I'm from the Bay, so I gotta rep my hometown.
That's an easy one. That's the easy one. I'll take Tom all day.
All day.
This is like the old school, new school dynamic because it's easily Johnny football.
I mean, Johnny football. Look,
Tom is cool and he's understated, I feel like, and I feel like he'd be great, talking, you and Tom and 2 girls. But I feel like Johnny attracts the whole crowd. You're gonna have more.
No, I don't want the whole crowd.
You're gonna have more selection.
I like to be in the back.
No, see, this is back to that instant gratification.
You like to be in the back because no one wants your ugly mug in the front.
I might be a lot of things in life, but ugly is just not one of them. Let's just be real.
No, this is that instant gratification. There's a lot of stuff going on, but at the end of the day, Tom's my man all day.
So Super Bowl pick. Do you guys have a Super Bowl pick? I know it's early. I know you just gave your whole speech about week 1 to week 2.
Week 1?
But I think the Seahawks are going to take it again. I think the Seahawks are going to be the first team to repeat. Our producer Kevin here is a big Seahawks fan, so I'm sure he's really happy about that. I mean, they were able to retain all their guys. Russell Wilson's getting better. I mean, for me, my favorite player in the NFL is Richard Sherman.
He's as good as it gets right now.
He's as good as it gets.
He's as good as it gets right now. He's the man that you got to give the man credit. But like I said earlier, we're picking Super Bowl picks in week 1. I mean, you don't know who's going to get hurt. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know who's going to.
Let me change it this way then. More fun. Who's your Madden team? You guys both play Madden. Who do you play in Madden? When you need to win a game in Madden, who's your Madden team?
I always pick a team. Again, biased, that has a good running back, so I'm going to pick the Seahawks. I love Marshawn Lynch. There's different kind of like styles of running backs, so I don't know what your style is. My personal style is I like a running back that not only can put it, can get it in between the tackles, but can also hit the corner, but can also catch the ball. Fully well-rounded. And there's not a lot of running backs that have that kind of versatility.
I feel like my favorite running back, and I'm biased as a Broncos fan, but the greatest running back ever in terms of prototype was Terrell Davis.
I knew you were going to go there. Shame on you.
Terrell Davis was the man, though.
Out of the backfield.
I love Terrell Davis.
Coming out of the backfield, running between the tackles, running around. He was the best.
Terrell was the man.
He was great.
The best ever?
There's a lot.
John Elway.
The best ever?
John Elway didn't win until Terrell Davis came around.
We're saying the best ever, though?
No, not the best ever.
Oh, okay.
He was good.
But he's one of the well-rounded. Like when you want to build a running back, you think of someone like his body type and everything.
He was
awesome. The man.
There's been a lot of great. I like the old school man. I'm like a Earl Campbell kind of guy. I'm like a Gale Sayers kind of guy.
Who's your Madden team, Kahlil?
My Madden team? That's tough. I like to run with a lot of different teams. Me and my little brother have a lot of big battles.
Were you annoyed that Madden had you as a really low speed rating when you were in the league? Because it annoyed me because I'd always sign you to my squad, and then you were pretty good. I could get to like 4 yards, but you could never break the second level.
Oh yeah, I wasn't gonna take it no 80 in Madden, no chance unless you up my speed. But no, it didn't bother me. The fact that I was just in the game used to tickle me a little bit.
Especially because when I want to be in the game, I had to just be that loser who creates himself as a player.
It's all right. Hey, I grew up creating myself a long time before I was ever in Madden.
When I create myself, I grow like 5 inches. I'm like 10 times.
Of course,
faster.
that's what you're supposed to do.
Do you guys have an NBA 2K team? I know basketball season around the corner.
I got to run with the Warriors, baby. Steph Curry for 3. All day.
Any 2K for you, Jamaal?
I can't say that I do. I can't. If I'm more of a Madden guy. If I end up playing, just my preference. But I like to play with the Thunder. I like a little bit of.
Oh, here we go. Gotta play with the Thunder.
I just, when you're not that good at the game, you gotta pick a team that's good. Yeah, you gotta pick the best team.
Might as well pick the Heat.
Yeah, or the Dream Team.
Or yeah,
I'll pick the Dream
exactly.
Team too.
LeBron is a cheat code in that game, man. It's not even fair playing with the Heat or KD because he can shoot from 3.
Well, before we get out of here, Jamaal, we want to know about what you're doing. So I know you have experience as a college athlete. You've been through the processes from JUCO to college. You've helped counsel your kids. So just tell us a little bit about your company and what you do.
Yeah, well, I mean, it all started from personal experience, which I think a lot of great ideas start from because you have to have that passion. And I played high school football, went on to play junior college football for a year, went on to play college football, and went through a series of injuries that kept me from playing after college. And I think any athlete that goes through injuries, you experience a variety of issues. And I've been through it all at every single level aside from the professional football level. And I realized, me personally, that going through all these situations as a college athlete or as a high school athlete, you're completely unprepared to deal with a variety of things that come your way, whether it's, what school to choose when you're coming out of high school. A lot of kids come out of high school and they're making decisions based off of how many guys are sent in the league, how many times they won a national championship, or how many girls are at the school.
National TV.
That too.
Like that,
yeah, or how many girls at the school, So it's like, I realized that once I got through college, there had to be some resource offered to high school athletes who have aspirations of playing college sports that really gives them a wide variety of resources. So
like
one
a
thing,
Yelp for college.
Almost
sports.
like a Yelp. Yeah, what we're trying to provide is we're providing information on college programs all across the country, where kids coming out of high school who have aspirations of playing college sports are able to basically take virtual tours and visits of those schools through their computer.
Could I see you nodding your head? What do you think?
I think that's amazing because I mean, he played the college game as well as I do. I know a lot of kids who, they get to play Notre Dame in their second year. I'm going there. And I just, for me, it was easy for me. I only had one offer coming out of high school, so I just took it. But I mean, for a lot of guys, when they have these, hundreds of colleges giving them D1 scholarships, I think something like that that's something I could have used. Finding out what degree plans they have. I mean, for example, at UCLA, there was things I wanted to take but couldn't take because they weren't even offered.
Would you go through a coaching change at UCLA?
I did.
Okay, so like at Fresno, we had 4 different offense coordinators. So if you can imagine what that's like every single year, it's
I had 4
rough.
at UCLA.
That's what I'm saying. Or these kids that go to these schools, a whole new coaching change, or a coaching change is put in place. Everything changes, and now these, coaches, administration, everybody else in the system can move from school to school. They can go wherever they want,
Athletes can't.
Yeah, but the athletes can't. And at the end of the day,
So it's a big decision.
Of course. At the end of the day, this big business is created from the athletes. Everything is created from the athletes. But at the end of the day, the athletes are the ones that, in a lot of ways, aren't being taken care of.
Exactly.
They aren't being taken care of. There's not one other form of business where you could sign a contract and you get there and it's not what you intended it to be or not what you thought, and you're stuck.
Yeah.
But that's what, with NCAA
and for
rules,
me
you
is,
can't.
I, as a recent graduate of Duke, right, I loved Duke, had a great experience, but if at any point I wanted to leave, it didn't affect what I cared about, right?
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, college athletes go to college to play sports, and people say, why don't you just transfer? You've got to sit out a year. Someone new might come along, recruit, new coach. There's all these variables. For me, as a student, your only thing you have to worry about is working hard, getting good grades, getting a degree, and you can do that at different places. So honestly, very excited to track your progress, Jamal. Did you anything you want to tell people about where they can find you or where they can find you?
Yeah, it's Athletes First. That's athletes with an S, 1st.com, and we'll be soon to launch, probably in the next month or so. But if you go, you can enter in your information and your first name, last name, email address, and you'll definitely be notified when it's up and running.
Jamal, thank you so much for coming on
Absolutely,
the show.
my pleasure.
Kahlil, great to have you with us this
Thanks
week.
for having me back, baby.
Everyone, this was another episode of The Zone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure to get in touch with these guys on Twitter. Check out Jamal's site, athletesfirst.com. You can follow Kahlil Bell, and that's Kahlil Bell 32. Make sure to subscribe to the Lip TV. You can see our shorts here. Subscribe to the Lip TV. Follow the Lip TV on Twitter at the Lip TV, on Facebook, facebook.com/the Lip TV. And also hop over to the Lip TV too and subscribe there.